All right, now we're going to move on to the next part. I am going to start talking about the videos. I'm going to start reacting to the videos. Okay, so we're going to look at the first bad example of the video. It is 1 minute and 21 seconds long. We're going to watch the whole video and then we're going to go through it bit by bit, okay?
I didn't want to have to make a video like this, but some things that are considered common sense in one culture is not so common on other culture, you know what I mean? So here are 3 things to keep in mind when you're taking the subway in Korea. First things first, if there's a bunch of people getting off and you're like near the door, then you should get off and then get in again. I feel like this is such an obvious thing. Why are you blocking people's way? Don't just stand there because you're getting in everyone's way. It's not like the train's gonna leave without you. Okay, second, you know those priority seats reserved for the elderly, pregnant people, and people with disabilities? Leave those empty. I know in your Western minds, you might think, oh, why not sit there until someone comes and you can just stand up when they come? That's not how it works in Korea. And part of respecting culture is doing things that would not make sense in your culture. It might look inefficient, but that's how it works. If you're carrying a bag and the subway is super crowded, turn your backpack and wear it in front of you. Some nunchi. Look at what other people are doing. Occupies less space. So it's common courtesy to do that in Korea. Bonus one. If it's in the morning and it's like dead quiet, there's no one talking, maybe you shouldn't be screaming and laughing, you know? Kind of like a therapeutic time. Bro, you can't make this up. We didn't want to have to make a video like this, but some things that are...
Okay, so he is taking the video down. I don't know why, but he took that video down. So the only thing that I have of it is a screen recording of it, which was playing here while I was reacting. You saw some parts that I didn't react very well to and some things that I agreed with. So first things first, the 4 bits of advice that he gives. 1, get out of the way when the doors of the subway open. If you're standing blocking the door, you should get off and turn around and then you're first in line. The people in line will understand what you're doing. It's very common in Korea. That is true. That's correct, right? To assume that we don't know that because we're from a different country is kind of shitty. Korea is not special. Like, that's not the only, like, most places that have subways are like that, from my understanding, but like, okay, whatever. I don't think that's one of those things that's common sense in some cultures, but not in others. Also, it's not culture, that's society, but okay, whatever. Yeah, so to assume that that's something that foreigners need to hear because they don't have Korean common sense is really, like, kind of underestimating, like, deliberately, maybe like subconsciously underestimating the intelligence of foreigners. The second one was fucking crazy. Okay, the second one's what I had a lot of problems with. All right, we'll come back to that one. That one's the ranting one, so we'll come back to that one. Third one, if you're wearing a backpack on the subway, turn it around on your front. Yes, but it doesn't actually conserve space because that's not how space works. It just gives you more control over who you're smacking with it, basically. I have never really seen foreigners violating that bit of etiquette. In Korea, I've been here for 6 years. I spend several hours a day currently it's like 6-ish hours a day on the subway. Previously it's been as low as 1 to 2 hours a day, but it's typically not less than 1 hour a day. Now I live 2 hours away from anything that I go and do. I live 2 hours away from Seoul via subway. So at the very least, I'm spending 4 hours on the subway. 2 there, 2 back, right? So I've never seen a foreigner being the problem in regards to a backpack, but I've seen a lot of Koreans doing it. I have videos and photos of Koreans shoving their backpacks into me, pressing their backpacks into me, smacking me with their backpacks. I've started recording it because I need to document for people like this who don't believe that Koreans are the main people doing this. It's a bit of nationalism. It's cognitive dissonance. They know it's a bad thing to do. It's rude to do. But they only notice it if it's a foreigner doing it, and they'll just let it slide if it's a Korean doing it because they don't want to call out their own because that would look bad on them, right? Don't think it's a conscious thing. They're doing it. It's a subconscious thing, but it comes from being raised in a very nationalistic society. All right. Now, fourth was the maybe don't be screaming and laughing in the morning. These 2 and 4, the even numbers, wow. Ooh, wow. He was angry when he made this video. You can tell he was pissed off. It sounds like he experienced some disruption of some sort on the subway because he's in the subway station, transferring or going out of the subway station, probably on his way home from a pretty tough day at work or something like that, or going to a day at work that he didn't want to go to, whatever. Typical, regular human in a capitalist society stress, taking it out on everyone, right? I've done that. I've made videos in the heat of the moment being like, fuck these Koreans, they're so rude. Don't post those. I don't post them because that's not really what I feel. It's what I feel in the moment, but it's not actually me expressing things accurately. I'm upset at the discrimination that's happening against me, but I don't hate this country. I don't hate Koreans, you know? Because I hate the way that those Koreans were acting in that moment. And I hate the fact that they felt comfortable doing so. And I hate the systems that allowed them to feel comfortable doing so. I'm going to talk, I only have about 30 minutes left of space on my phone memory, so I'm going to try to zip through this pretty quickly. To talk about the xenophobia aspect of it, number 2 and number 4, the maybe don't be screaming and shouting and laughing on the subway in the morning, and then the don't sit in the priority seats, leave those empty. I'm going to touch on the xenophobia, then I'm going to touch on the sexism, and then I'm going to touch on the, oh my god, ableism. Okay, in that order. So the xenophobia of that. To assume that all foreigners, specifically Western foreigners, because that's who he seems to have addressed this to, would just not understand to be quiet when the subway is quiet is crazy, because I've never met an American who couldn't figure that out. And Americans are known to be, thought I saw a book. Americans are known to be probably the loudest of the Westerners. I've never witnessed that in my 6 years, and I'm going to try to calculate how many hours I've guessed that I've spent on the subway based on my daily schedule for each of the 6 years I've been here and how much the commute would have been. I'm going to put it right here once I've calculated that. This is how many times, how much time I've spent on the subway approximately, not counting appointments. This is how much time I've spent approximately in the last 6 years, and I have never seen that. So keep that in mind. All right. Now, to assume that foreigners are too selfish or unintelligent or I don't know, to know not to sit in the priority seats is kind of crazy as well. Also, to tell foreigners what to do in that situation, also a little bit crazy. But we're going to get into that with the ableism thing. But because of the priority seating, the way that it's marked in Korea, it's marked very clearly. It's got pink for the pregnancy priority seats. It's usually got yellow for the elderly, disabled, and injured priority seats. There's designated sections for it. They're marked very clearly. There's a history behind why they have the pregnancy seats, and it's because an old man assaulted a very pregnant woman, Korean woman. A Korean man assaulted a very pregnant Korean woman back in the day when she was sitting in the elderly and disabled seats while pregnant, because there was no pregnancy priority seat and nobody in the regular seats would give up their seat for her, so she had to sit in the priority seats, which she had a right to do because that at the time was the pregnancy priority seat. And he assaulted her, dragged her out of the seat, beat her up while visibly very pregnant. So because of that, the Korean government then developed specifically the Seoul government, but I think it's been adopted around Korea as well. They developed a pregnancy tag, like a little plastic circle. You know, like those big flare buttons? It's like that, but it's two-sided and it's like a token almost, like a little charm. And it has a pregnancy symbol on it and it's like pregnant person, whatever, and it's pink. It has a little pink little string thing, and you would clip it to your purse or your bag or your shirt or whatever to signify that you are pregnant and you need the pregnancy priority seat. In Korea, in the subways, they have etiquette videos playing all the time, and they also have you can't escape the etiquette instructions in Korean subways. So to assume that we can't tell what those are is fucking crazy, because they use very much physical descriptions of it. It's very easy to tell what it is even with the sound off. So that means the language part of it doesn't really fucking matter. He's just assuming we're too dumb to know better. But the pregnancy seats, it's like, it talks about etiquette for the pregnancy seat. So like the priority for the pregnancy seat is pregnant people first, then people who've just had babies, like young kids and their mothers or fathers or whoever, right? And then injured and visibly disabled people, then elderly people, then invisible disability people, because they you can't tell, and then they're just going to get harassed, even though technically they would be the level of the disabled people and injured people, but the social connotation of it is very different, and I know that because I am one of them. I'm one of the invisible disability girlies, all right? Another important thing is that we're not going to get into that. Hold on, that's the ableism thing. Sorry. The elderly seats, the priority is elderly, disabled, elderly, disabled or injured, elderly, pregnant. That's it, right? So, but again, once again, the disabled seats, or the invisible people with invisible disabilities, you can't see that. And in Korea, it runs based on stereotypes from movies, basically. For an experience outside of the standard Korean person's experience, heavy air quotes on that, they're going to get their understanding of that from media. And a lot of times when it has to do with a foreigner, they throw away anything they already know about Korean people in that demographic, and they assign the foreigner demographic first, and then they assign whatever demographic after. So if I say, oh, I'm disabled, they'll look me up and down and go, no, you're not. And I'll just like faint on the floor because the blood pools in my legs. I'll show a picture, not of me fainting, but like the blood pooling and the difference in my skin color. When the blood pools in my legs, you'll see I'm very visibly gray in the face. Oops, sorry. Very visibly gray in the face. I look like I don't feel well. I'm about to pass out. It's quite clear. This picture was after 5 minutes of standing, by the way. 5 minutes does that to me. I almost had to get off the train to sit on the floor outside of the train to recover. My train ride home is 2-ish hours long. A little more than 2 hours long. So if I had to get off every 5 minutes because I couldn't find a seat, I would never get home. So that would be a nightmare. That all being said, like the priority seats, they're clearly marked. There's etiquette videos and signs and everything playing. There's international symbol of disability, elderly, new mother, soon to be mother, wheelchair user, injured, whatever. There's very clear ones. I'll put them here. I'll put them around. I'll take pictures of them when I go out tomorrow to where I need to go. And then I'll take actual pictures of the actual subway stuff, and then I'll show it to you. I'll actually take real pictures, and I'll put the date that I took the picture on the picture, and I'll put them up around me on here. I'm filming this on April 25th, and you'll see pictures from April 26th, because I'm going to take them tomorrow, because I'm going somewhere tomorrow, and I'll be on the subway. So it's important for you to know that this is not a secret. It's not like you have to understand Korea to know this etiquette. It's everywhere. You can't escape it. It's to the point where nobody has an excuse to not already know better. It doesn't matter what language you speak. It doesn't even matter if you speak a language. If you can see, then you know. Because you can see it, but they're not playing the audio of like the etiquette videos, and like posters don't have audio. On top of all of that, there's also sexism embedded into this mindset, because it has to do with pregnancy priority seats. Now, that's just a tiny little thing. I don't think he said any of this out of a sexist point of view, but it does play into who is and isn't acceptable when sitting in those seats and not visibly in need of that seat. If a man is sitting in that seat, foreign or Korean, it's a lot more, he's given the benefit of the doubt a lot more. Now, if a woman is sitting in that seat, foreign or Korean, and she's not clearly in need of that seat, according to what Koreans think is clearly in need of that seat, then she will get harassed and hounded out of that seat. I've had my knee forcibly ripped, like had my legs pulled open, and my knee dislocated by a man who was trying to get me out of that seat. I was sitting in the elderly seats at one point, and 2 old Korean men sexually molested me in public, and nobody did anything to help me because they didn't want me in that seat. because they thought I didn't deserve to sit in that seat. It was disgusting behavior. And I'm not saying that Koreans do that, but that is a danger that foreign women especially, but women in general in Korea face when doing something. And also, we're going to go into the ableism thing now. When you assign morality to sitting in that seat or not sitting in that seat, if you don't visibly look like you need it to a very ableist population, you are assigning that to a group of people that you can't detect. Invisible disabilities are invisible they're called that for a reason, right? So you can't look at me and tell that I have a disability until I've already fainted, in which case I might have just had a one-off incident. You don't know. At one point I was already on the floor before one Korean person thought maybe I should offer her a seat. Too fucking late, bitch. I'm already passed out on the subway floor. I do crawl off the subway and call my mom and cry because it's traumatic to pass out in public. It's very scary. So I have these disabilities that cause these issues. I have orthostatic intolerance. It doesn't really matter what condition I have. I'm not going to go into that. I don't really have the time. Nor should I have to. And that's another point. When I sit in these seats, multiple times every train ride, a Korean woman usually will come up to me and go, "Hey, this is for pregnant women." And I say, "Yes, I know." And they're like, "You shouldn't sit here." And I usually say, "I have a disability. If a pregnant woman comes along, I will give her my seat." And they're like, "But you shouldn't sit there." It's like, I have a disability. I can sit here, right? It's a priority seat. The pregnant people are not on this train. So the next thing down is me, disabled and or injured. Okay? So that's like, just because you can't see my disability doesn't mean I don't have one. Why would I lie about being disabled? If I wanted to lie, I would just tell you that I'm pregnant. You don't know. Look at my belly. I could be pregnant. Look at my boobs and look at my belly. I have huge titties, chubby belly. I could very well be pregnant. You don't know that. Just because I don't have the one tag that a lot of pregnant people leave at home by accident doesn't mean that I'm not possibly pregnant. You have no idea what the person in that seat is experiencing. And for him to assume that every foreigner, specifically a Western foreigner, sitting in that seat is just taking up space until a pregnant person comes onto the train to sit there is ableist and xenophobic. But we're going to talk about the ableist part for now, because I already kind of addressed the xenophobia there. Why do you assume that person doesn't deserve to sit there? You don't know them. You don't know their experience. You don't know their medical history, and you shouldn't ask them for it, because they shouldn't have to qualify to sit in a fucking seat if they need to. And if they don't need to, and they've chosen to, let them find out. Let a person come beat the fuck out of them for it. Because when you keep trying to assume that everyone who doesn't look physically disabled or pregnant in that seat is just unaware of the fact that it's a priority seat, you are automatically assuming that invisible disabilities don't exist. Yet, in the comments that I have a screen recording of, and I'll have it playing during this time, he says, "Oh, for people with invisible disabilities, you're not who I'm talking about." How do you know who you're talking about? It's invisible disabilities. If you see a white bitch in that seat and you get mad about it, you may be mad at someone who has an invisible disability. But you think that she's just too stupid to know what that seat is for, despite the fact that there's the international symbol for pregnant people on the fucking seat. On the wall and on the floor. And the seat's a different fucking color. How do you know she's not pregnant? How do you know she didn't just miscarry? How do you know she's not sick? How do you know all these things? You can't look at a person on the outside and know if they deserve to sit in that seat or not. It's ableist to think that you do. And it's ableist and ignorant to think that saying, "Oh, this doesn't include I'm not talking about invisible disability people." Because you are, though. In practice, you don't fucking know who is or isn't an invisibly disabled person. You don't know. So when you espouse rhetoric like this, You're demonizing anyone who doesn't look disabled or pregnant who sits in those seats, whether or not they are disabled or pregnant. And I know from my own experience, the fear of being assaulted, intimidated, hounded down, hulked over, glared at, judged and mistreated by Koreans who think that I'm just a stupid, dumb foreign bitch who doesn't know what a pregnant symbol is, makes me uncomfortable sitting there. So a lot of times I'll push myself to the point where I am about to vomit or faint, and I am gray in the face, and I do look like I need to sit there. So then I feel more justified sitting there. But then after I sit there for a little bit, I feel a little bit better. And then inevitably, for the 7th time today, some Korean lady comes up to me and goes, "You shouldn't sit there." And I'm like, "You shouldn't bother me. You should mind your own business." And even this guy, this creator, in the comments, it'll show when I'm scrolling through here. He says, like, "Don't you agree that it helps people like you," some people, foreigners with invisible disabilities, if foreigners without invisible disabilities don't sit in those seats? No, it doesn't. It doesn't help me, because as a foreigner with an invisible disability, I don't assume a foreigner sitting in that seat doesn't have an invisible disability. I don't assume that they have any less right to sit in that seat than I do, because I know what it feels like to have to deal with that kind of bullshit prejudice. I know what it feels like, and I will know what it feels like for the rest of my life, because my invisible disabilities are for life, and this country will never not be ableist in my lifetime. I know what it's like, and I don't think it fucking matters if they look disabled or not. It's not up to me to decide if they need that seat in that moment. That's up to them. It's up to me to go find a different seat to sit in. And I do. Every time. I'll go find a different fucking seat. All right? It's important to note that he made no effort to discuss or note how he would differentiate between people with foreigners with invisible disabilities and foreigners without invisible disabilities. And if he, the guy saying it, is aware that invisible disabilities exist and was like, "Oh my God, no, I wasn't talking about you, I'm so sorry," he knew that he stepped on a landmine there. How do you think that the people in Korea who don't know about that would act? I can tell you, they'll grab your body and molest you sometimes. They'll rip your kneecap off. I caught that on a voice note. A Korean man dislocating my knee because he thought I wasn't justified to sit in the seat that I was sitting in. That's how a lot of the really ableist Koreans behave. They don't give a fuck if you have an invisible disability, because they don't believe that's real. And to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you're just lazy and dramatic kind of a thing, until they themselves experience it. And they won't, because they don't have these genetic conditions that I have. All right? And there's no disability tag like the pregnancy tags. Although I think there should be like a yellow disability tag. I think that would be great for people with invisible disabilities. I'm thinking of making my own so that I can easily be like, "No, I have one. See, I have to do it, right?" And so that would make it easier for me. But every time a Korean person comes up to me to challenge me about sitting in that seat, if it's a pregnant person or if it's someone who needs that seat more than me, I will give it up for them without asking. I've even offered my seat to someone and they took it, and I was like, "Fine, I'll just go find another one." Like, I don't, if I'm okay enough to stand for a little bit, I will go stand for a little bit. I'm trying to just keep myself safe, you know? But that being said, when a lot of Koreans approach me in this seat, they will make me tell them my diagnosis to determine, as a non-doctor, by the way, and also not my doctor, to determine whether or not I'm worthy of sitting in that seat and taking up that space that nobody else was going to sit in. It's never the people that would sit in that seat that come tell me not to sit in that seat. It's never a pregnant person. It's never a disabled person. It's never an elderly person. In fact, it's usually a very visibly healthy woman who, if I get up, she won't sit in that seat. The Koreans will also block that seat when they see me coming near it, as if to protect it for the invisible pregnant woman that's not on the train. I had to pick up a lady's bag and put it on the floor because she refused to move it after I asked her 4 fucking times. And then she was offended like I was the person in the wrong. I'm like, I am disabled. Are you dumb? Like, I know that you can't see my disability, and I know that it's also not fair for me to assume that everyone should automatically assume I have a disability. But it's also not fair that I have to continuously disclose my medical information to random strangers who are trying to justify my presence in a seat that I need for my own safety. It's not fair, right? So the most fair thing to do is mind your own fucking business. And if that person in that seat is a foreigner that doesn't belong there, they'll find out. You don't need to be the one to tell them. Unless you need that seat, you don't need to be the one to tell them. And last I checked, he's not able to get pregnant. So I don't think he's ever going to have to be the person who's above the disabled priority in that seat. Sorry, man. Like, I don't know. That's like very ableist. It's also ableist to assume that we're too stupid to know what it says on the sign. Again, I'm going to show you the markers that show what these seats are for. Insanely obvious. Insanely international. These symbols, everyone knows what they are. Alright, anyway. We're going to move on to the second bad video. A lot of the commentary is going to be very similar. The second bad video is a lot more of a Korean assuming that foreigners are too fucking stupid to see things that are literally written on the wall. You'll see.
3 things you shouldn't say when you're traveling in Korea. The first one is 물 주세요. Water is self-service 95 or 99% of the time. So
when you hear these are things you shouldn't do in a foreign country, normally, for me, I would assume that these are faux pas or even things that could get you into trouble. Not something that's unnecessary to say. You know what? If you are a foreigner and you go into a restaurant in Korea and you say, 물 주세요, they're going to go, oh my god, you speak Korean. That's so cool. You can get the water over there. They're not going to be like, oh, go back to your country. They're not going to be weird about it. They're going to be like, oh, good job with the Korean. That's awesome. You can go get the water as self-serve. They're actually going to enjoy the fact that you spoke Korean to them. That's my experience in Korea. Even in Seoul and like the bigger areas, the tourist areas, they appreciate the fact that you've tried saying something in Korean, even if it's wrong, even if it's unnecessary. It doesn't matter. So you saying that you shouldn't say 물 주세요 in Korea is weird and not accurate. I don't know if this guy's a Korean or a Gyeopo. I don't know, but it's just a really weird bit of advice that isn't really topical in Korean life. It's just a weird tokenizing thing that he's participating in for his own country. Like, I don't understand. This one I think was for the algorithm, because none of these are really that impactful or meaningful, and all of them are pretty self-explanatory. I believe it's 3 things again. So that's the first one. He's telling you don't say 물 주세요 just because you don't need to. Okay? You didn't need to say you shouldn't do that. It's not that you shouldn't. You absolutely can. And there are cases where you could say 물 주세요. It's perfectly fine. You should say 물 좀 주세요, which is more polite. It's like, can I have some water, please? Instead of can I have water, please? Can I have some water, please? Which is like more polite, but like, it's not like a bad thing to say.
you gotta get your own water. If you tell them, 사장님, 물 주세요, they'll be like, pointing at the 물은 셀프. 물 is self. Water is self. Funny, yeah? So you can't say that. You just gotta go and pick up your own water and then pour it yourself. And the second one is 메뉴 주세요. The menus are usually on the wall. Because a lot of places will not have an extensive menu.
No, that's not true. In a lot of places today in Korea, the menus are not on the wall. Some of them they are. A lot of times the more traditional ones, they are on the wall. But if you ask for a menu, you know what they're going to do? Especially if you're visibly a foreigner, they're going to hand you an English menu. Because that's a very common thing to ask for. It's very normal to ask for a menu. It's the same thing with the water. It is never unnecessary in a situation where you would already have done it. If I can get a picture of a restaurant like this ahead of time, I will put it up here. The menus are not small on the wall. You walk in and you're like, oh, damn. You see it. It's the first thing you see most of the time. There's not a question over whether or not the menu is already on the wall. Also, in most countries, the menus are either handed to you when you walk in by the host, and if there is no host, they're often on the table already. In most countries, especially the countries where it's English speaking that he would be lecturing to for people to come from, right? So you would see that there's no menus available on the table or in your hand or in the host's hand. You would see that there's no host in general. And then you would see that there's a big fuck-ass letters on the wall. And you would go, oh, that's the menu. And if you don't know, you can go, oh, is it the menu? And they're like, yes. It's the menu. Sometimes there's even like a little paper thing, like a little notepad that you write down what you want. And there's like a pen and like a notepad. And you check off what you want. And then you give it to the server. And then they go over it with you and like, you want this, are you sure? You want this, is this? Okay, cool. And they rip that off and then they go take that thing. Or they keep it on there sometimes and you can add to it, whatever. But that's your receipt now. That's how they know which table got what. A lot of times that's also there. You're not ever going to be in a situation where you feel the need to say menu 주세요 when it's unnecessary to say menu 주세요. like, what the fuck?
They'll just have 10 things on the menu and it's just on the wall. So there's no menu.
Which is not true. There's also 10 is quite a lot for a restaurant, but like they often have a whole wall of menu items, but like whatever. He's just chatting shit.
There's no menus on the tables. You just look at the wall or somewhere and you order, looking at the menu on the wall. So the menu is always there. So you don't ask menu 주세요.
Menu is always there. No, it's fucking not. Okay, he's just making shit up. In the traditional restaurants in the older days, yeah, it was on the wall. Always. But now it's not because they've westernized things and they've made it where they actually give you a menu. Or it's on the thing above the countertop like you would normally do with like a fast food place. Or sometimes they have a menu that's at the table. There's a lot of different types of restaurants in Korea. Also, not all the water is self-serve. I don't know where the fuck he's getting this information. Either he's a gyopo who hasn't been in Korea in a long time or hasn't been extensively in Korea in a long time, or he's a Korean who has moved out of Korea and hasn't been here for a while. He doesn't look old enough to have lived through the time period where it was only that type of restaurant. So I don't know where the fuck he's getting this information. He might just be making it up for the algorithm. This is a video that feels like it's made for the algorithm to like take advantage of the Korean wave, right?
And the third one is 계산해 주세요. It's I want to pay. 계산해 주세요. In Korea, you go out to the entrance or the exit to the counter and then pay there. You don't pay at your table. It's a cultural thing, and some places they make you pay before you even eat. When you order, you have to pay. Because it's too busy, they forget who's leaving, and some people just leave without, paying. So they're sick and tired of that. So they make you pay when you order. So 계산해 주세요, you won't be saying it. Yeah, so have fun in Korea. 3 things you shouldn't say when you're...
None of that was necessary advice. None of that was helpful at all. Because guess what? What I said for the Mojo sale, they're going to be happy that you tried speaking Korean. They're going to say, oh, good job with the Korean. You can actually just go pay out there. You can actually get the water yourself. You can actually just look at the wall at the menu. That's what they're going to do for all of that. It does not fucking matter. Like, that is so crazy. Okay, anyway, that's the second bad one. That one is just useless information that makes Korea seem like it's a special place that's totally unlike anything anyone else has ever seen around the world. It's not. Korea is very much like America in a lot of ways, especially in restaurants. It is the things that you could talk about. For a good example of a Korean restaurant advice video would be, okay, it would be that they do not really heed food allergens. So if you have a serious food allergy or sensitivity, you need to be the one to make sure that you're not going to a place that serves that. And you need to look up the dish. They won't always tell you what's in the dish. And they will sometimes garnish it with the thing you just said you were allergic to anyway. So you need to be ultra careful. And you should have a translation card saying, I will fucking die if I eat a peanut. Do not serve me a peanut. and then they'll maybe take it seriously, right? You can have a little translation card that you make and you prepare it before you come over. That's some of the advice I've seen other foreigners give each other in Korea. So that's a good bit of advice you can do, right? You can also give a bit of advice where it's like, oh, in Korea, you can't always use digital pay services. So you should always have cash and a functioning card. 2 backup payments. If you can't use your Apple or Samsung or Google Pay or whatever, you need to be able to use something. And sometimes some card readers don't accept foreign cards, although nowadays it's more and more common for them to accept all types of cards. But still, you might run into one of those like hole in the wall places that doesn't really have the updated card reader, can't read a foreign card, so the cash is going to come in handy. That's another thing. And I'm just coming up with these off the top of my head. I didn't plan any of this. Another thing that you could say would be the silverware and the napkins and things are typically not on the table. They're in like a drawer on like the side of the table. So if you put your hand under the table and you pull out the drawer, that's where all your silverware and your napkins are going to be. You can look for that on the table. That's a pretty cool thing. And if it's not there, then that should already be on your table. Sometimes if it is already on your table, it's also in the drawer. But like that's only if you have like a reservation most of the time. Those are actually helpful things that you could say. Also, don't touch the stone bowls. They're fucking hot. That's another random thing, right? We don't really have stone bowls in the US unless you go to a Korean restaurant. So maybe you don't know. The server's going to tell you, but just keep it in mind. I don't know. Maybe a food recommendation would be good, right? I have 3 examples of good videos for advice in Korea, but I don't think they have to do that much with restaurants. Let's watch the last bad one. It's also probably going to be pretty short.
If you do this in Korea, you can literally get fined.
This one really fucking pissed me off. I'm gonna be honest. I fucking hated this one. Okay, so this girl is just making full shit up. Her comment section was not on her side. I'll be honest. This is the one where people were like, no. I'll explain why in a minute. First of all, she's already sensationalizing it. She's talking to the audience like they're babies. It's that typical like TikToker short speak where it's like, today we're gonna build a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Like that's like the Mr. Beast thing. Like fucking hate that shit. She's doing that influencer thing. She's also tokenizing Korean society because she's making something about Korea into content, but it's not even true though, but like whatever. She's also gonna make it out to seem like Korea is one of the only places where jaywalking is illegal. Spoilers about jaywalking.
And tourists don't know about this.
Tourists don't know about this. Keep that in mind. It's about fucking jaywalking. Nobody in the world knows that it's illegal to cross outside of a crosswalk. Only Koreans know because they're special and different. Okay. No. It's illegal where I'm from too, girl. The fuck? It's illegal where you live. She lives in the UK. I saw in the comment section, she lives in the UK. It's illegal in the UK. People just do it. The cops don't care. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't do anything for the cops to ticket someone who's jaywalking as long as it wasn't like a seriously dangerous thing to do.
Let me explain. Back home, like in the UK, you can cross the road where you want. No one cares. Jaywalking is normal. Everyone does it. But in Korea...
She's showing a non-crosswalk area that the road, you can't see the road. So it looks busy, it looks crowded, it looks clogged up. It's nighttime as well, like evening time as well. And there's no crosswalk there. And there's also no fucking people.
It's a different story. My friend was in Hongdae and saw...
She's showing during the day, the afternoon, maybe like 4 p.m.-ish, 4 or 5 p.m. She's showing a crosswalk. There's also not many people. There's like 1 or 2 people walking by. It's very open. You can see everything. She's already trying to make it like Korea's more orderly, organized, and like reasonable than the clogged, crowded London. Like, the types of pictures, if she showed a crosswalk in the UK and then a crosswalk in Korea, I wouldn't be mad about it. She deliberately chose those 2 pictures to show a bigger contrast between the two.
an empty road, so she just crossed like usual. But next thing you know, she was stopped and fined by a policeman. Yes, just for crossing the street. Because in Korea, even if there are no cars, you're expected to wait at the signal. If there's no green man, then don't move. Let me know if jaywalking is a problem in your country, and if you're traveling to Korea, then make sure to save this and share with a friend who's coming to Korea to save you from paying fines. Make sure to follow for more Korea travel tips. If you do this in...
You can pause to read my comment if you want. That's not true. I mean, it is illegal to jaywalk in Korea. The cops could give you a fine if they wanted to, but they don't because there's no use in doing so. It's really not useful for them. They don't really get performance reviews based on how many tickets they hand out. They do that in the US, so sometimes they'll like make a trap for people who speed and when they're driving, and so they'll like hide and set that up so that they can have more tickets given out. So like you're just like a victim of the work performance system for the cops in that case, where they're just trying to catch more people speeding. They're deliberately setting it up to make you feel safe to speed, which you shouldn't speed anyway, but they'll do that, and then they'll just go out from like behind a bush or something and they'll get you. That's not what Korean cops do. They do nothing. Like at one point, I watched a man shove another man into the road when cars were coming. And like 4 cops just looked at it and were like, damn, that was crazy. And then walked away. One time I saw like a group of like 6 cops. They're always in packs of multiple, right? And I saw like 6 Korean cops. One seemed to be very new. He was probably new to the force, and they had all done like a rock, paper, scissors game to see who would go tell the old man who was smoking in the non-smoking area not to smoke in the non-smoking area. And unfortunately, the poor little new guy, the tiniest of them all, the most shy and nervous of them all, maybe even his first day on the job, absolutely brand new, baby deer, just born, can't walk right yet, walked up to that old man and said, "Hey sir, you can't smoke here." Before he could even get that sentence out of the way, the old man was like, "Nah, fuck off." Which it's not legal to curse at someone like that in Korea. He just committed a crime against a cop while committing a crime against the city. And the cop was like, "Yes sir," and he walked away, and his friends, the other cops, just laughed and they walked away too. Cops in Korea are not going to fine you for jaywalking only. There's something else going on there.